The Alcatraz escape. In its heyday, it was the ultimate maximum security prison. Located on a lonely island in the middle of San Francisco Bay, Alcatraz, aka The Rock, had held captive since the Civil War, but it was in 1934, the high point of a major war on crime, that Alcatraz was refortified into the world's most secure prison. Its eventual inmates included dangerous public enemies like Al Capone and George Machine Gun Kelly, criminals who had a history of escapes, and the occasional odd character like the infamous Birdman of Alcatraz. In the 1930s, Alcatraz was already a forbidding place, surrounded by the cold, rough waters of the Pacific. The redesign included tougher iron bars, a series of strategically positioned guard towers, and strict rules, including a dozen checks a day of the prisoners. Escape seemed near impossible. Despite the odds, from 1934 until the prison was closed, in 1963, 36 men tried 14 separate escapes. Nearly all were caught or didn't survive the attempt. The fate of 3 particular inmates, however, remains a mystery to this day. Here is their story. Frank Morris arrived at Alcatraz in January 1960 after convictions for bank robbery, burglary, and other crimes and repeated attempts to escape various prisons. Later that year, a convict by the name of John Anglin was sent to Alcatraz, followed by his brother Clarence in early 1961. All 3 knew each other from previous stints in prison. Assigned to adjoining cells, they began hatching a plan to escape. Morris, known for his intelligence, took the lead in the planning. They were aided by another inmate, Alan West. The ringleader was seasoned criminal Frank Morris. Frank had been abandoned by his parents at the age of 11. By the age of 13, he'd already racked up his first criminal conviction. Throughout his teens, he was arrested and charged on multiple occasions for armed robbery and drug offenses, and out of correctional facilities throughout his youth. Frank was serving a 10-year sentence for a bank robbery at the time of the escape. Frank's accomplices were the Anglin brothers, John and Clarence, and Alan West. The Anglins came from a large family of seasonal agricultural workers who traveled up and down the country picking fruit and vegetables, dirt poor. The 2 brothers turned to crime at an early age, first being caught for breaking into a service station at just 14. They started robbing banks and other businesses after their first brush with the law. They were both sentenced to 35 years after being convicted of robbing the Columbia Savings Bank in Columbia, Alabama. After repeated escape attempts from Atlanta Penitentiary, the pair were transferred to Alcatraz in 1960. Alan West made up the last member of the escape party. A serial offender, Alan had been arrested over 20 times before finally being imprisoned for car theft in 1955. Transferred from Atlanta Penitentiary to Florida State Prison, Alan made an unsuccessful escape attempt and wound up in Alcatraz in 1957 as a result. All 4 of the men knew each other well, having all served time with each other on several occasions in other prisons. After they were all placed in adjoining cells, where they could talk at night, they hatched a plan to escape, under the leadership of Morris. The 4 men planned to tunnel through the walls of their cells, build a raft, and escape the island by sea. After collecting discarded saw blades from the prison workshops and metal spoons from the dining hall, they crafted a drill from a vacuum cleaner motor. They used their improvised tools to begin widening the holes around the ventilation ducts under the sinks in each of their cells, concealing their handiwork from the guards with painted strips of cardboard. To hide the nose they made drilling through into the unguarded utility corridor behind their cells. Morris would play his accordion during music hour in the prison, an hour set aside each day for music to be piped into the prison, as a method of calming the prisoners down. Once they could fit through the holes, the men set up a makeshift workshop in the empty top level of their cell block. Here they made the raft they would use to escape, as well as a set of life jackets. The raft and the jackets were made from stolen and donated raincoats, carefully stitched together and sealed by melting the rubber on the hot pipes in their workshop. When it came to covering up their absence when they were in their workshop, the men ingeniously constructed papier-mâché versions of their heads from soap, dust, toilet paper, and toothpaste. The heads were made to look realistic with paint from the maintenance workshop and real human hair collected from the floor of the prison barbershop. They were placed on the prisoners' pillows while clothes and towels were stuffed under their blankets in the shape of their bodies. Any guard looking in would see them sound asleep in their beds. when in fact they were up on the top level building a 6 by 14-foot rubber raft and paddles from scraps of wood and stolen screws. On June 12, 1962, the routine early morning bed check turned out to be anything but. 3 convicts were not in their cells: John Anglin, his brother Clarence, and Frank Morris. In their beds were cleverly built dummy heads made of plaster, flesh-tone paint, and real human hair that fooled the night guards. The prison went into lockdown, and an intensive search began. The alarm wasn't raised until the following morning, when guards failed to rouse the 3 prisoners and entered their cells to discover the dummy heads. A huge search operation swung into action, involving both civilian law enforcement and the military. The land, air, and sea surrounding Alcatraz Island and beyond were extensively searched over the next 10 days. The Coast Guard reported finding one of the prisoners' paddles on the 14th of June off the south coast of Angel Island, and workers found a wallet containing details of the Anglins the same day. 6 days later, shredded rubber believed to be from the prisoners' raft was washed up on the shore near the Golden Gate Bridge. The following day, a deflated life jacket was picked up by a prison boat floating 50 yards from Alcatraz Island. These scattered remnants were all that was ever recovered of the men and the tools they'd used to escape. Despite no bodies being found, the FBI quickly concluded that the 3 prisoners had drowned. From the first year of the men's escape right up until the present day, there have been plenty of people who say the FBI was wrong to pronounce the men dead. As early as Christmas 1962, various members of the Anglin family claimed they received cards and postcards from the brothers. The 2 men's mother received a bunch of flowers sent to her anonymously every year up until she died in 1973. And her funeral was allegedly attended by 2 unusually tall men wearing heavy makeup. Family members believe they were John and Clarence Anglin attending in disguise. In 1989, one of the Anglin's brothers, Robert, claimed 2 men turned up to view the body of his dead father, stayed for a while, wept over the body, and left. In the same year, 2 women contacted Unsolved Mysteries to say they had seen Clarence Anglin and Frank Morris on a farm near Mariana in Florida, though no trace of them could subsequently be found. In 2015, History spoke to members of the Anglin family about the escape, as well as showing some of the cards allegedly sent by the brothers over the years. They also revealed the story of Fred Brizzi. Brizzi had been friends with the brothers since they were children, and he claimed that he had seen the escapees in Brazil in 1975. Photographs were produced, supposedly of the 2 Anglin brothers, though identification could not be verified, as both men were wearing sunglasses and the photo was in bad condition. Finally, in 2018, the FBI confirmed that they had received a letter, allegedly written by John Anglin. In the letter, Anglin revealed that both Morris and his brother Clarence were dead. The remaining prisoner said he would hand himself in exchange for medical treatment. The FBI could not confirm the letter's authenticity, and they never heard from the writer again. Was this the final word from the last men standing of the 1962 escapees? The FBI formally closed the case in 1979. The U.S. Marshal Service, on the other hand, plans to keep the case open until 2030, when the men will all be over 100 years old. So, did Frank Morris and the Anglin brothers manage to escape from one of the most notorious prisons and go on to live for decades as wanted fugitives? The answer is we'll probably never know for sure. Thank you for watching. Feel free to share your thoughts, like the video, and subscribe to my channel for more great stories.